Hey! This is the most casual talk ever. There's like pizza and beer and people on the floor. They haven't passed out yet. When real men are passed out by 7 o'clock at a HackerCon. Yay! That sounds like a challenge. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. The plan worked. I was actually hoping to have nobody in here, but we managed to clear out the room of most folks because everyone else is out there eating pizza. And for those of you that persisted, I'm sorry, but you have to sit here for an hour and listen to me. We're going to bar the doors, chain them up, violate some fire codes. No, not really. My small children are up here as the official peanut gallery. What were the two guys in the Muppets? What were their names? Set up in the balcony? Waldorf and what? Statler and Waldorf. So imagine my children with, big floppy jaws and gray hair, and there you go. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the dirty secrets of the security industry. This is just basically an hour-long rant, give or take an hour. For those of you, how many people saw this talk at DEF CON? Anyone? One, two? Excellent. Yes. Yeah, so we have two people that saw it. Good. So we don't have to worry too much about replay. I have changed a fair bit of it, but most of it's in the middle. So if you just kind of eat pizza and let the tryptophan kick in and whatever else, we'll get to the good stuff. Anyway, the note this is my first presentation using Vista with PowerPoint 07. Ooh. No. There's some redeeming qualities here. First of all, I don't know how many people saw me fight with a resolution problem I had earlier. But I managed to actually only take up half the screen. It just didn't actually display anything in the second half. Like, it just treated like I had a little box. I'm not sure what that's about. But some of the graphics templates in PowerPoint 07 are actually pretty fantastic. The transitions are still like circa 1995. Like, I want the little fading across with all the little flippy tiles, because that's professional. I'm not sure I've ever seen a situation where that works out successfully. And my job, you'll note the little new and improved thing in the bottom. I no longer, as of next Thursday, will no longer work for Booz Allen. For those that know where I work, for those that don't, that's where I'm working today. Children, cover your ears. Cover your ears. They're like, when Dad says that, we know we're not supposed to. So that gives me the opportunity to say expletives in public without getting yelled at by my PR department. So, fuck! Yeah, 5-year-olds laughing at me. And my wife is going to kill me. So, anyway, I was going somewhere with that. I swear to God. I totally started a new company, but there was something about PowerPoint. I was giving a talk at my soon-to-be previous job about how to give good presentations, and it was more geared around how to actually build PowerPoint slides that aren't just PowerPointware. I don't know that a lot of you know this, but when you actually turn into a consultant, the only thing you do is build PowerPoint, and sometimes... You're not a consultant then, sir. I'm sorry. Oh, jeez. I'll just send you to consulting school. Just cut that little part right in the middle between the two lobes, and everything works out okay. That's called a lobotomy. Thank you. All right, just making sure. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of conflict in the world about what makes a good presentation and what doesn't make a good presentation. So I tend to be very word dense, and PowerPoint's actually very good at allowing you to be word dense if you want. I encourage everybody in the room that has to do anything that resembles public speaking or presentation of information to read anything that Mr. Tufte, I think he's Dr. Tufte, first name Bueller. He's not Bueller. I can't remember his first name. Anyway, this guy's written now 4 books on data representation and visualization. Frankly, if you do any kind of work like this for a living, go read one of these things, and it'll actually change the way that you view the information that you present on a screen. It's fantastic pieces of work. He's released a 4th book very recently, and he's around giving tours, like one-day classes, $250 or something like that. Totally worth the price of admission. You get all 4 of his books, which are gorgeous. I'm not getting a dime for pimping him like this. All 4 of his books, which are just amazing, but plus he really just hits you with the presentation stick all day long. And it's not like presentation like how to brainwash your audience. It's presentation that if you're an engineer and you need to present vast amounts of information to people, here's ways to do it. So Tufte, T-U-F-T-E. It's not quite spelled phonetically. Excuse me. Anyway, that also made the children laugh. We're security professionals. We're not supposed to believe anything we say. anyone's ability to stand on stage. Thank you, sir. That's as exciting as it was going to get. Goodbye. Bye. Oh, he's just going to the back of the room. Apparently, I'm violating the hygiene regulations. So we get paid to be cynical, right? I mean, that's the truth at the end of the day. And we're not very good at it. You know, people come to these conferences and give talks because they were able to write a 2-paragraph abstract and pretend they knew what the hell they were talking about, right? It doesn't actually mean you have a brain. You know, the first book, I've co-authored a couple of books, and the first one that I did, I sent a random thing to O'Reilly. It was like a 5-page proposal on a book, and like a week later they FedExed me a contract. Like, that's all it took, you know? I was like, well, that seemed complicated. I guess now I need to learn this. And like, that was literally my thought process. I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to learn this. So don't trust anything you hear from me. Don't trust anything you hear from anybody else, especially Billy Hoffman. By day, I'm founder of this company. By night, founder of the Shmoo Group, et cetera, et cetera. My child is now also amazed that I'm in bare feet. So what we're going to talk about here are the 800-pound gorillas in the security industry, not the gorillas that are roaming around the halls here, or the clowns. How many people saw the clowns? There were just a herd of clowns in the hallway earlier today, and I actually had to go ask somebody, like, do you see them too? Because I get a little nervous at the Days Inn where there's a hacker convention going on. There's a bunch of la 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 la, making balloon hacker things. No, there was like a Shriners convention, so there's actually clowns here. There's a lot of things that are uncomfortable to talk about in what we do for security. A lot of what we do for information security is plain, flat-out shit wrong. Like, just not doing the right thing, okay? I hate to say it, but we spend a lot of our time screwing around, really focused on the wrong problem. We're supposed to be professionals, okay? And we're supposed to know what we're trying to get done. And it turns out we really don't. So I'm going to say some things that are potentially going to be very unpopular, or at least controversial, or at least don't make any sense. And whenever you encounter any of those conditions, feel free, stop me, interrupt me, throw things at me. If it's beer, I'd like it to still have the cap on so I can consume it to ease the pain. Feel free to disagree with what I'm saying here. Feel free to disagree today, or email me tomorrow, because I'm more than happy to do this. Thank you, sir. Preemptive. You just load those up. So here's another neat thing about PowerPoint 07. You can make your graphics a lot sexier. Like, check this out. It's like beveled. This guy's like, yeah, you're a consultant, sir? Yeah, okay, there we go. He's hot. I mean, I don't think he's hot. I mean, I think he's actually getting warmed up by this process. Okay. No, you can't throw drinks. It was a figure of speech. Anyway, I have this pyramid-y thing that I make that's loosely based on Maslow's pyramid of human needs. So this is a euphemistic pyramid of IT needs, if you will, IT security needs. So at the foundation, Maslow's thing is you basically got to do the lower level things before you can move up the food chain. So here we're going to do the lower level stuff like patch management, policy, procedures, all that kind of stuff, just to run an available, effective IT shop. Not even care about the security aspect of it. Al's coming up to the front row. God bless Bob Euchre. Zach, there we go. Once you get that figured out to at least a reasonable, acceptable level, move up the food chain. Go to the network. Do the basic commodity stuff that we can do. Firewalls, AAA services. Okay, AAA access, authentication, or excuse me. I am not a CISP, so I can't tell you what AAA means. Authentication, authorization, and auditing. Thank you. My children are... If we could take a 5-minute break, just clear the room, everybody, and leave Alan here, and I got a tack hammer. If you hear screaming, actually my wife's going to take the first shot at it. The tack hammer, not Al. So, note, I'm no longer going to be employed by my employer regardless after this whole ordeal. After we do that, we're going to move up the food chain to software. We're going to talk about software security. How many people have used SE Linux? How many people have done more to SE Linux than just turn it off? Okay, got a handful of people, yeah. Hey, look, it's by default in Fedora. That's cute. Click. Okay, good. Don't have to deal with that anymore. Glad to see that we care about security. It is fun to curse at. It eats up disk space very effectively. How many people use AppArmor? Wow. So that's a crying shame. AppArmor is basically, for all intents, I'll describe it as a lightweight SE Linux. It is, and for a long time it was maintained by Novell through SUSE, but now Novell has spun it off. What? Full disclosure, Crispin Cowan, who's kind of one of the founders of the whole technology, is a shmoo, so I pimped his technology, but not because he's a shmoo, but because I actually think it's good stuff. For all intents, it allows you to control execution of any arbitrary piece of code that you want on a Unix box, okay? So Apache, for instance, fairly complicated piece of software. Who's audited Apache by hand? Right, okay, yeah, so check. Nobody in the room has, turns out nobody really has. There's been some... No. So what AppArmor allows you to do is control what Apache or whatever process has access to. Okay, you can do neat things like control bash to the level where you can log into the box, do everything you want, but you can't read certain world-readable files, like an etc. Took a little challenge. One of the AppArmor guys said, you have 2 days, here's a login on the box, you have a normal shell, normal account, there's a world-readable file in etc. I want you to read it. The only thing is it's protected per AppArmor policy. Okay, sounds reasonable. There's got to be a way to bootleg around this, right? Like privilege escalation or do something wacky. I spent 2 days beating the hell out of this poor box. I destroyed it in every other way. I couldn't get to that file. I was furious, absolutely furious. It's a fantastic technology. You can deploy it in like 10 minutes in a bar while drunk, and I've done it. Like I've been at like the HackerCon where I can do that for 4 notes, and sure enough, you can actually get it done. So anyway, I encourage you to look at that. Once you get that figured out and how to deploy that at scale, move up the food chain and care about IDS. Okay? We'll talk about why in a bit, but in a nutshell, IDS is best for auditing your network for policy compliance and things like that. It's not really good at finding attackers. It's good at finding really moronic attackers that you should be stopping with everything else anyway. I don't care if they bounce off the outer hull. I really care if they've done something insidious, bad. I'm sorry, I'm using words I'm not even sure they're using correctly anymore. So, and you get up to the food chain, you can worry about honeypots. Like when you've solved all your other problems, think, I'm going to lure some attackers into my super safe area here and make sure they give me all their cool O-Day. I mean, like, that's great and all, and I'm glad there are people on the planet that do that, but for the vast majority of organizations, it's pointless because you got a million other things you got to worry about before you got to worry about honeypots. Anyway, I'm taking a lot of time on that page. Ooh, that's a bad sign. All right, so what gave birth to the 800-pound gorillas? This is the, what? 1,200-pound gorilla, yes. It wasn't very, oh my God. People! The two of you could go at it for like hours. I could just sit down, let Jason sit down, la 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 la. Hope that ends up on YouTube. The whole thing will end up, oh, will it? Oh, crap. No, it's okay. I wanted to DOS YouTube. Wanted to see what it would take to take them offline. So we've learned a lot of lessons over the last 4 or 5 decades, right? Oh, wait. Let me rephrase that. We should have learned a lot of lessons over the last 4 or 5 decades. Guess what? We haven't. Okay? We haven't learned squat. Quote, not talking to me. Wow, my wife's giving me the drinking sign. So back in this, yeah, thanks. I'm all disheveled, but Clint. In the 60s, there was a lot of research going on into the fundamentals of computer security from a computer science perspective, okay? Not from a, God, how does a consultant make money doing computer security and let's invent some products. It's much more from a, how do we actually make foundationally secure systems from the ground up? Fantastic research. It's just as applicable today as it was in 1960. The rules haven't changed, right? We're still using the same kinds of processors. We still have general-purpose operating systems. You can read studies from the 60s and 70s that say, hey, machines are getting more complicated, and they're getting owned through, basically lack of patching or code that doesn't, enforce access control with enough granularity and all this stuff. You probably could. That's the thing. Like, you could pick up something that like Butler Lampson submitted back in the 60s and like just erase and put Al, the guy with the fluffy shirt, and like there's your doctoral thesis. or maybe Sightseer. Does anyone actually ever use Sightseer? Sightseer, Citeseer. I failed like 4th grade spelling and never got any farther. The Sightseer is a way to look up papers and see who's referenced them and what papers that thing referenced and kind of build a tree. So if you find a particular paper you care about or a bit of research, you can actually weave your way through that very quickly. And what's interesting is you can find like these whole bodies of knowledge that we don't really think about in the commercial security community, but are very well researched, and we just don't pay much mind to. I recommend, if you care about something, like you're really into IDSs or honeypots or software security, whatever, go to Sightseer and just spend a day. Pretend it's Google. Just start putting in search strings and clicking links, and you will find so many papers to read, it's silly. Anyway, Unix is developed. We had tubes, actual honest-to-God tubes. Telnet was introduced in the 70s. We did a lot of work on trusted computing. Okay, trusted computing, not evil, turns out. It's actually pretty useful, at least that's my opinion. But we also started to see an uptick in honest to gosh, hey, neat things going on in the computers that weren't what we intended. Blue boxing. Captain Crunch pulled the whistle out, blew it into the phone, and said, hey, that sounded like 2600 to me. Neat stuff. BBSs became popular. We were able to share information very rapidly. We didn't have monks taking their blood and writing on, scraps of paper anymore. We had electronic means of doing the same thing. I had a joke there when I lost it. There's a little green bar creeping up the bottom. That's not an artifact of PowerPoint 2007. That is actually kind of a logarithmic scale of the value of the computer security industry. Okay, same thing. Yeah, it's just a made-up thing anyway. So up until the 80s, there's a little bit of money being spent on it. As we went through the 80s, we're getting more money spent because people are putting more and more systems on networks, and we're doing more things with security. And there's also more bad things going on, and people are getting the pants scored off of them through, like, oh my God, I forgot the name of the movie with the Whopper. War Games. Holy cow. I'm sorry. It's late. Who gives me a 7 o'clock slot and then fills me up with pizza? I mean, my God. Yeah, drink more. Drank it all, as it turns out. What? God. If someone has his ball gag around, could you just go get it? All right, so viruses and Trojans started going mainstream. Well, anyway, yeah, that was a perfect segue. Hacker Underground was born in earnest in the 80s, right? 2600, LOD, CDC, all these things started to gain big momentum. It became cool to be elite underground hacker, right? Not this kind of hacker, but actually, honest to God, like elite underground, didn't ever see the guy's face, real name, et cetera, et cetera. PC was born. Hey, the Morris worm happened. Wow. Big event, right? This really kind of changed how we viewed the internet. Even though it was kind of nascent at the time, that scared the pants off of everybody, and it caused people to do incident response. Like, I have to pick up the phone and call someone because it was outside of my network. Big deal. Hey, that scared people. The 90s and the dot-bomb, everything went off the charts, right? DEF-CON happened, hackers went mainstream, some guy points at me in the back with a hat for no reason. Mosaic, we got Netscape, and basically we started to lose all other ports except for 80 and 443, right? Like, the internet could live on 25, 80, and 443 for, another couple of years, and no one would notice. Maybe all the command and control of all the botnets would go away, but other than that, I think most of the internet would survive. Hackers, the movie came out. Brock? Yeah, that's what I want to hear, yeah. Absolutely the best hacker movie of all time. Yeah, man, that was the stuff. There we go. Hackers went mainstream. Hey, guess what? Everybody bought firewalls and IDSs and antivirus. Man, that became a big... Yes, sir? Nope, never mind. Just saying hi. Picked a good time. I'm kind of up here doing something. Okay. Well, I got my phone. If you want, we can chat. Just give me calls. So, the internet goes everywhere, right? But not in the way we think. We ended up with service-oriented architectures and not toasters talking to our refrigerator. Not yet. Crypto battle was fought and ended. We heard that story a little bit today. We can move strong crypto to everywhere except for 7 nations, basically. And so we can all download SSL. How many people remember going through hoops to download crap like PGP and SSL? I can't have it here in the U.S. We can have 20 million computers that use it every frickin' day for commerce for the entire planet, but God help you if you can find the source code anywhere between the two shores. Hackers become profit-driven. Okay? Real hackers realize there's a really large amount of money going on in the underground. Okay? So we had some hackers who went, whoop, kind of legit, and their whole industry kind of evolved around computer security. We had a whole other group of hackers that went under. Right? Are making a killing running botnets, doing all kinds of financial laundering, and you name it, fantastic amounts of crimes going on. Hey, my internet's connected. Oh, God. Wow, I can't even move anymore. I normally use a Mac, and there's 2 buttons on this, so I get confused really easily. So. My watch has been stolen. What's the first secret? So the first secret I'm going to let you in on is defense in depth is dead. How many people read full disclosure? A handful of folks. Okay, so there's this guy on there that posted something with the same title the other day, and his point was exactly kind of the opposite of mine, which I thought was kind of cute. So if you've read that thread, just throw it away for a minute and listen to what I'm trying to tell you. Wow, I have a laugh track, the really crappy Laverne and Shirley laugh track where Laverne cuts her hand out, is bleeding profusely. The laugh track just keeps on going. That's funny. In the beginning, there was bad code. People wrote crappy code. And by crappy, I don't mean unreliable. I just mean insecure, right? Which was okay because it was standalone systems like PDP-8s and stuff. But we at least had robot overlords that would do our bidding. We were pleased about this. We had no type safety. For those CS wonks in the room, no fault isolation, error handling, no assurance, no real access code, but we did have software, and it was cool, and there was much rejoicing. And we did actually still have tubes, I know Congress wants to believe we might still have them today, but they've kind of gone out of vogue. Over time, we tied these things together. They got more complicated. Firewalls started to pop up everywhere. Right? First TIS, Gauntlet, all that kind of happy horse crap. Then stateful firewalls. Still, we had bad code, right? Steve Bellevin, this is my favorite quote. Anyone's heard me talk before has heard me say this. Steve Bellevin said, a firewall is a network response to a software engineering problem. Full stop, right? We don't have access control. We can't control who does what to our code. We can't control the execution of the code. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a big firewall, boop, make sure nobody can talk to the code they're not supposed to. That's great when it's not a fully connected graph. When everyone needs to get to your web server, like Billy Hoffman needs to get to your web server, your firewall isn't going to do anything. Full stop. He's just going to come in, right? That was a good noise. I'll have to remember that for later. The dawn of the firewall age was the beginning of the defense in depth, which was really the beginning of we can't control the root of the problem, so we're going to apply a solution above it and hope we can catch the problem before it actually hits the root cause, right? I can't write good code. I don't have a way to inspect it, to actually, make it do what I want it to do. So I'm going to put a firewall in front of it. And we're going to call it this neat thing called defense in depth. And that's how we're going to get away with justifying to ourselves that it's okay. It's not. We should have had firewalls for about 3 years and then gotten rid of them again because thank you, Al. I appreciate that. I like how your sleeves flutter when you do that. It's very nice. We should have only had firewalls for a number of years, and then we should have chucked them because we should have had better software security, right? We should have been writing good code. We should have had better foundational practices, better languages, better compilers, all this kind of stuff. Turns out we didn't, so we kept gluing things together, and we got things like antivirus and IDS, okay? Oh, it's defense in depth. It's okay, because best practices say I should buy as much stuff as possible to make my network as secure as possible. Yes! All the vendors in the world rejoice! Rejoice, brother! You buy all the stuff you can because that is what conventional wisdom says is a way to make your network secure. Right, that's bullshit. Okay? Sorry, I'll give a warning next time. I'll put my hands up so you can cover their ears. He doesn't even care. He's pointing BS. So, we deployed multi-factor authentication, more defense in depth. Because if I have really strong passwords, that looks like access control. No, it's really good authentication, right? That's all it is. It's not really the authorization part. Oops, we didn't solve that. And no one really understands the difference anyway between authentication and authorization, so who the hell cares? Because it's really hard to sell people on those subtle differences versus the big ones. They sound alike. They both start with auth. They're all on AAA services, and I'm doing my auditing. Look at the size of my disks, right? How many people run all their syslogs to one big box? Yay, look at that. We're secure. We have an audit trail. Can you make sense of it? Is it tied to anything? Do your other machines care? They see something bad, does it relay back up to your web server, say, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing, and your web servers respond? No. What happens if you own that box? You win, sir. Let me tell you what you won. 500,000 credit card numbers. I saw a guy actually get taken down at IKEA for passing a bad credit card. The Swedes even have it figured out. Pesky Swedes. Still, we have bad code, and we're spending a lot of time managing this because defense in depth is fantastically complicated. So yes, the vendors again rejoice. Woo! We make a lot of money in the process. Hallelujah. Look at this self-perpetuating nonsense we've made, because then it gets worse. Hey, guess what? And they're going to tax the what and the who now? The sales. So the government makes money out of this. Yeah, so let's start the conspiracy theory. The government doesn't want things more secure because they want the little itty-bitty percentage of GDP to come in as tax revenue on security products. Where's my tinfoil? Right. So, I'm a libertarian. Never mind. The network is the computer. Okay? Scott McNeely, Steve McNeely. Scott's his name, right? Thanks, I get that. I know it starts with an S. Really bad with names. He got it right. He just said it at the wrong time. The network wasn't the computer in 1995 when Sun's market share was tanking. They were trying to find a way to keep everybody on board. Oops. However, it is becoming the computer right now. So we got SOA. Hallelujah, because we have SOA and nobody understands what it even means. We deploy XML firewalls to protect our applications and thinking like, hey, I still don't understand it. And now I have the big applications. I got a service-oriented architecture. That means I'm going to make things services that used to live on discrete boxes or as a process on a box or something. I'm going to allow the entire enterprise. Yes, vendors, rejoice. There's even greater opportunity here. Anything I need done, I'm just going to put on a magic box. And I'm going to say, everyone that needs that service, go to the box. Go. And everyone will hook into it because they don't have to write code. And it's the most glamorous thing, and we don't know what we've built. And it's an appliance, yes. And the vendors can come in and manage it on their own. You don't even know what it is. We use single sign-on so our users aren't hassled, right? You know, they can just sign on once, own once, run anywhere. It does. We have no clue. Thank you, Al. I appreciate that. We don't know what's going on. You know, we don't understand the composability issues here as we glue all this stuff together. We don't have the first clue how to write line-by-line tactical secure code in C on embedded devices like phones, right? Why in the world do we think that we can handle SOA security? That's like 4 degrees of abstraction higher away. We have no frickin' concept. Said frickin' that time. Still got one kid in the room. No frickin' concept of how to secure SOA. But our native instinct is defense in depth. That's the answer. I'll put another firewall, but this one's really complicated. It must be good. Because what you need to do, I'm going to step out of the camera. I got to step out of the camera's view for a second. What ends up happening is all the business logic that you're trying to enforce way down here in the trenches and all these servers, you have to now make your firewall understand it all, right? Because that's an easy process. You don't really understand your business logic when you write the code in the first place, let alone when you take the 500,000 lines of code or 20 million lines of code and you try to go through it and say, oh, this is what I really meant to do. What? No. Why is this good? Why is this acceptable? Why do we allow people to get their CISP when we think defense in depth should still be an okay answer for any question other than what's really screwed up and you should never do? D, defense in depth. Right? Bad. Now, don't get me wrong. What's the alternative right now? Not a lot. Okay? But you know who I care about telling that message to? The IT staff that have no choice but to consume the products that are today. Anyone that's any earlier in the life cycle that's dealing with developing security products, developing operating systems, developing applications, they need to understand, don't rely on defense in depth. Do it right the first time. Defense in depth is for pussies. Okay? Full stop. You can applaud again. That was a big crescendo. Hey, there we go. Brilliant. Al is my disciple. Get the ball gag. So, anyway, next. I've rambled on about that. Defense in depth is dead. basically, K-lock goes through the roof. We still don't gain a similar understanding. We don't have type safety. Secure coding is not taught to all CS majors. How many people are CS majors in the room? How many people were taught secure coding practices as part of that CS process? Did you do more than just encryption? No. Okay, good. So there we go. We can teach you how to use DES. Yeah. Ooh, no. Squad. We don't. It's the thing. So, yeah. I got him fired up. You want to give the rest of it? There we go. All right. No. It's good. It's good. We at least, yes, it does. We need to fix the code, right? And this is a problem from academia. It's a problem for commercial industry that's writing software, and it's a problem for every freaking organization that uses IT. So, at the end of the day, there's a lot more I can say about it, but I got to move on. So that's not disconcerting enough. The hardest problem is the next problem, right? It turns out with all this defense in depth stuff, we've actually made a few forward strides. Big problems ahead. We were the ankle biters. Right? Our industry has been an industry of ankle biters getting the low-hanging fruit because our clients were stupid. Right? Most places didn't really know that you needed to use passwords. Huh? Most places didn't really know that I wasn't supposed to have my admin interface like on the frickin' interweb. People are getting this message. They're spending money on security. Oh, oops. What do we do next? Well, turns out firewall, signature-based security, all this stuff is kind of becoming unimportant because it catches these known vulnerabilities that are running around that we can say, this is a bad thing. How many people do pen testing for a living? Kind of. What? Wow, that's a shockingly small number. So for those that do, what's the way in? How do you get in? What's the most common way? What? Stupid users, thank you. Stupid users that have too much authority on their end workstations and don't know any better, right? I think Joel said it today. You just email them crap and you ask them to run it. Or guess what? They run it. Hey, that got count. How do you stop that? How do you stop? Do you kill the users? They'll use their foreheads, Al. They'll tape little appendages to their forehead. They'll get really good at touch typing with their never mind. So, how do you stop spear phishing? Do you have go ahead. No. Okay. You can never educate anyone. Okay. At the end of the day, software developers are as smart as they're going to be the day that they graduate from college, right? If we didn't teach them how to write secure code, some small portion of the population will, for just random chance of playing golf in the middle of a concentric circle, run the right way and actually make things a little more secure, and they'll learn about security. Users are the same. You disagree? No. I'm not talking to you for once. In the back. So users are always going to find a way to get data in and get data out. If you cut off email, they cut off IM, right? Users still find a way to get IM out. No. That's not just work. I work with other companies. This is a fact of life. You have to email stuff out and you email stuff in. Users are going to do this. How do we fix it? My humble opinion is you have to fix the code and the architecture that they're using. Okay? So, now, if you look at this, you think, what does it take to stop spear phishing? Really? Honest to God, stop it. Ignore user education. Say, users are morons, and at least 1 out of 100 will be a moron. Usually, you maybe have 99 out of 100 that are. I've been involved in commercial jobs I was doing at my work, and we would send 100 emails in to an organization asking them, hey, come to this website and download stuff. And we get 140 responses because they mailed it to their friends. What? You're like, it's not even a challenge, guy. We're done. It's only a weekend or a day into the whole thing, and I got 3 weeks to get paid for.
No enterprise software developer, we can ask, what access rights does your software need to run?
Root.
And none of them can ever fucking answer you without saying, just give it to the
My wife barked at you. No, exactly, and that's the thing. So let's look at this. First thing we want to do, we say users run code at too high a privilege level, right? They download an exe and it does something malicious to their box. Ignore ODAs and local vulnerabilities, privilege escalation attacks for a second. Just for a second. Reduce the authority of the user to have access in the system. not being an administrator only solves part of that problem, because you still do have the privilege escalation, right? Say, not everyone's an administrator on the system. Well, you know what? It's still Windows, and I'm still going to have some ODA I can drop on it, and I'm still going to escalate privilege. So the real answer is real isolation of users, MLS style. How many people know what MLS is? Okay, yeah. So basically, MLS is this utopian world where every freaking object that runs on the operating system has like access control and some identity associated with it, and can only talk to other things that it's allowed to talk to, and everything kind of runs around totally isolated from each other. It's this fantastic idea that's been around for, almost half of a century. But what? Now wait, there's a really exciting thing in 2 slides that you may not have heard about, and it's going to get you very excited. I promise you, Al. I promise you. It got me excited. You see the chat window from when I found out this thing was going on. Woohoo! Restrict access the users have, data users have access to. So compromising the administrator account still turns out it's a bit of a problem, right? Because now attackers are going for the administrator. Hey, guess what? When you own the administrator account, you still get it. So how do you control that? Oh, DRM. Things like Microsoft RMS server, right? And does anyone actually try to deploy Microsoft RMS? I was hoping at least one, because I wanted to talk to you. Oh, we got one. Won't admit it. It's really complicated. It gives you every end user the ability to control access, to say, oh, I made this document, and I think these groups of people should have these types of access to it. Yeah, most of your users don't understand that, right? Okay, you've heard the mantra, security is everyone's responsibility? Right, that's also a cop-out, like defense in depth. Right? You should be able to have the dumbest users on the planet and still maintain a secure enterprise. Like, that's what I can, as a security professional, that's what I want. That's what I expect. Like, 100% users should be able to be morons, and we should be okay. So, we got 2 pieces of the puzzle to how do we stop spear phishing? Just little problems like MLS and DRM implementation throughout your entire enterprise. Whoop! What's the other? Oh, we find traces of attack in the network for attacks that we've never seen before. Well, that's easy too, right? Because we got a lot of signature-based intrusion detection antivirus systems, and the anomaly detecting ones is still kind of, well, they use the term anomaly in some of their marketing literature, so they must be anomaly detecting, right? Chuckles. No, this is a really hard problem. You need to do, honest to God, behavioral analysis of the network, look at flows, find the outliers, blah, blah, blah. People have done this. It's not easy. There's not a lot of good products. There are some products out here. It's probably the one we have the best inroads on. So in summary, we need to stop spear phishing, little problem that we have today, right? Ooh, what's the marketing thing? Oh, for my thing? Okay, good. That was my pull quote. For those that are in publishing, that was the pull quote. We need to solve the 40-year-old, almost 50-year-old MLS problem, solve the 40 or 50-year-old data access problem. It's really trusted computing in a nutshell. And solve the 30-year-old-ish anomaly detection problem to stop spear phishing. The most common vector we face today with respect to corporate security. Simple. All right. So, however, that said, Google. I was really pissed off when I wrote this. I hate Linux. I just say it. Hallelujah. Yeah. So this is my Linux naming convention for the secret. Anyway. Yeah. Google just changed web application security, probably for the second time. So the first time is they kind of did this Gmail, Google Maps, Ajax-y-like thing and made it really common and gave people a lot of tools to use and that kind of thing, which was scared everybody because a lot of developers now had new ways to pull out the double-barreled 12-gauge, line their feet up next to each other, and just blow them both off at the same time. Well, they kind of inverted that now. They released the capabilities-based JavaScript. Okay, how many people know what capabilities-based security is? Okay, more people should know this. Capabilities-based, for all intents, is basically a way to define what software is supposed to do and what it's not supposed to do. Okay, so like you write the code and then you write this little thing that says this is what it's supposed to do, and if it tries not to do this, it's going to get kicked right in the face. It's designed by contract. Hey, and guess what? They released it via open source about a week ago. It's called Kaja. I think that's how you pronounce it. So we got this phenomenally powerful and relatively antiquated concept of capabilities-based security, been around for decades. And we have JavaScript, which is the ultimate root of all evil as far as we're concerned with respect to web security right now. They union them together, and it turns out it's like peanut butter and chocolate. It's not bad. This could be one of the most revolutionary things that happens in the next decade with respect to computer security, because this Web 2.0 thing, which by all rights is looking like a train wreck, right? I mean, Billy Hoffman just sits here and like kicks Web 2.0 in the face all day long, and everyone giggles because like wow, there's nothing you can do about it. Holy cow! Billy's going to break his toe one of these days on one of these things. It's interesting. Kaja they implemented completely in the bounds of the existing JavaScript spec. You can run it today. You can write Kaja compliant apps. You don't have to have a different browser. You have to have like IE4 or better. Anyone running IE3? Anyone? Because I want your credit card number. I'll go. Go just hit your box right now and take it. Currently, it's a JavaScript library. Okay, oops. So there's a little issue there, right? Because you have to run client-side code to protect the client-side code. Can't trust the client. But that said, it's a fantastic step forward, and it's not unrealistic to expect this to become native code, and not something that has to be done through a JavaScript library. It was just released. It's probably not unrealistic to think if this works, Google might port a bunch of apps to this and do the same thing for capabilities-based JavaScript that they did for Ajax and make it common. Okay? I would encourage you, go read more about this. And either you can believe me or not with respect to this being revolutionary, but I think this is the first glimmer of hope I've seen in Web 2.0 security in the last 2 or 3 years. Eiffel. Oh. Wow, sir, you've dated yourself. You probably have dated yourself several times. There we go. All right, sorry. Yeah, look at that shirt. I'm running over, so I probably ought to be being more funny than informative at this point. Professionalizing the workforce, making people smarter. Like, I don't care about making all non-security personnel smarter, but I do care about making security personnel smarter. So most of the security programs we have out there are geared toward graduate students, right? And they're only in a few universities, not general purpose. I can't, like, go get my EE or, software security degree. I'm debating between the two. No, not so much. Most of them are geared around information assurance, which is this broad umbrella concept about doing everything securely, including having rocks in front of your building so, the terrorists in Omaha can't drive up and blow up things. I hate to say it, but there's a lot of these things we protect against that it's the wrong way to be, spending our cycles, right? Like, there's a lot more important things to be doing than buying giant boulders. I worked in a place once where we got in a very large debate about how much we should be paying per ton of boulder that we were importing to protect our buildings from. I kid you not, this is like a multi-week process to buy 25 rocks. Anyway, vast majority of the security workforce has been trained on the job. Name another $10 billion industry in the United States. Construction. Retail. No, skilled. I'm sorry. I'll give you construction. But even construction has that might be skilled. Although the ones that I've seen. There's basically no barrier to entry to what we do, right? You declare yourself a security expert. Is there a board that certifies you? No. There's some certs you can get, CISP and that kind of thing. I hate to say, but I met some CISPs that were dumber than a bag of rocks, right? And when it comes to the end of the day, like, would I give them control of anything important in my network or systems to architect and secure? No. Absolutely not. Zero practical knowledge. None. Zip. Okay? There's no body or barrier to entry here. And it crushes me. Because we sit around all day and we're getting smarter, but we keep reinventing the damn wheel. So, software developers, like I said, smartest the day they graduate. Security is everyone's problem. I think I've gone through most of this, so I don't want to belabor the point. So that was that. It's going to be at least a decade, because if none of us are trained today, none of us are in programs today, they're going to get us trained, and the next up-and-comers aren't getting trained. Well, if we started right now and made it a big priority, it would still take us 10 years. Right? In reality, it's going to be closer to 20 before we actually have a real body of knowledge around this and people actually care. So this is probably one of the more controversial ones. Many of the security product vendors are about to be at odds with the rest of information technology. You want to know why? Microsoft. Ooh, this gets exciting. Vista is probably one of the best operating systems ever made. Full stop. You can yell at me for it. I'm a BSD guy at heart. Like, I really love it. But I think Vista is really fantastic, and it's laying down a great groundwork that no one's going to be able to catch up on in the open world for quite a while. So this defense in depth thing led to this fantastically large security industry, right? The network security market alone, just the network security part, was estimated at $7 billion. Okay, that's probably low, right? Firewalls, IDS, all that kind of stuff. Again, it's all geared for defense in depth. How big is the software security market? Much smaller than that. We got some software scanners, etc. Let's take a case study. Microsoft spent more money researching security than many countries have as far as their entire national defense, right? Let alone the rest of the things that Microsoft has been researching. They've researched some amazing stuff. They've done some fantastic work. Again, I claim you play golf in the middle of a concentric circle and you shoot balls in every direction. Some of them go forward. So even if you don't agree with everything Microsoft's done, they have made some forward progress. Let's take an example. Microsoft hears the message loud and clear that consumers want and expect and are probably legally going to hold them to a more secure operating system through some means. Microsoft knows that the 64-bit version of the operating system is the future because everybody's buying a 64-bit version of chips. Microsoft says, you know what? We know an awful lot about security. We know an awful lot about how people compromise their systems, especially malicious code and rootkits. How do rootkits work generally? They're drivers, right? You hook the kernel. You get direct access to the kernel, you do nasty stuff. You access APIs that should be protected, but you have access to, and you dive deep down into this thing, and you suck all its brains out. Microsoft says, you know what, in the 64-bit version of the operating system, we're going to restrict that and not allow people to do it. It's not that it's going to be restricted like you have to authenticate yourself properly. We're going to restrict it like it's not there anymore. Okay? There's no droids here, period. Okay? It's not that they're the wrong ones. They're just not even here. So, good thing or bad thing? Good. Arguably a pretty good thing. Microsoft says we're going to make the OS more secure, and they actually do it. Good thing. Security vendors say, hey, wait a minute. That means I can't do my job either. I can't get in there and look at the code. I can't look at all the kernel memory. I can't do all the stuff that I was doing to sell my antivirus and my IDS and my firewall products. Yeah, so now you have this entire third-party industry and Microsoft at odds. So what we've done for years, 15 years, we had a mantra that said Microsoft products are insecure. Therefore, I need to buy security products to make it secure. I trust the security providers to make things more secure than Microsoft will on its own. Right? That was the point that we made for 15 years. Microsoft has changed that game. Okay? They're now saying, hey, we heard you. We got it figured out. We're trying to do the right thing, and we're going to make things better. Maybe not 100%, but this is sure as hell is a foundational step forward, not buying defense in depth. Turns out that when you do that and you lock out an entire vertical, it's called antitrust, or at least a lot of lawyers would call it antitrust. Symantec, a bunch of other people went and complained. Complained domestically. It's kind of a slow process. Complained to the EU. The EU is a little bit more liberal. They're kind of like California, except they speak different languages. So, wow. That was kind of rough even for me. So they went and complained to the EU, and Microsoft realized there was going to be a battle here. They said, you know what, we'll work with you to open these up because we just don't want to fight the battle anymore. It was more economical for Microsoft to make it less secure and allow competition in the security space than to make it more secure and protect everybody's enterprise better than we are today. Industry doesn't care about security. That's a whole other rant. But at the end of the day, that's a foundational change, right? Have we really acknowledged that as an industry? Have we thought about this? Have we thought this through? Where's Microsoft going? What can I use it to do? And do I really need to continue to buy all these products if I'm doing it right? It is. Well, security is the worst tax on the IT infrastructure. Because IT, quote unquote, is an enabler for all of you that read Computer World, right? I mean, it enables greater things to happen in your enterprise. Security is not often viewed as an enabler, so it's hard to make an investment in. So it's very complicated. At the end of the day, Microsoft is probably the only people that can actually fix that problem because you don't have to spend any more money to get it more secure. And they're trying to do it. Why are we stopping them? I don't know. It's my new sound for the day, apparently. What does the future of third-party security products look like? Well, I guess that was a question that I wasn't going to answer. So, full disclosure is dead. Not the mailing list, although, I wish it would die some days. It's hurt very badly. I've made this rant before, so I'm going to keep this brief. public discussions of security information has been only a relatively new thing, 15 years. We decided, you know what? Microsoft and all of the product vendors aren't going to make this any better on their own without having someone hold their feet to the fire. As a security industry, we're going to do it. That means we're going to disclose information publicly about vulnerabilities. There's clearly a continuum here of vulnerability information that you want to disclose, right? I'm going to tell everybody all at the same time, all at once. Because that way the vendor just has no choice but to react, and it's their own damn fault for running it. Users be damned. Okay? That's the Dan Bernstein model of security disclosure. There's things like RF policy and the Organizations for Internet Safety, which basically is common sense disclosure, right? Like you're just going to sit around and release some information and tell the vendor, if you don't fix it in 90 days or give me acknowledgement, I'm going to release it to the public at large. Boom, boom, boom. Well, basically, this created a kind of formal body of knowledge around this community, right? About this exploit, development, vulnerability, research community. And it's worked out pretty well for a while, except for the pesky part that it pays really well, too. So, things like patches have two major purposes, right? Let's not kid ourselves. They patch the system, make it more secure. They also give the attackers a crystal clear roadmap of where the vulnerability is, right? Most decent attackers can reverse engineer a patch and weaponize it in about, 2 orders of magnitude less time than it takes an enterprise to deploy the patch. I work with companies all the time that think they're doing good when they're only 3 months behind on their patching process. That's good. Okay? Bad's like 6, 9, a year. Never. We don't patch, we break everything. So Patch Tuesday is basically like a roadmap. And we know this. We've learned this now for the last year and a half. Well, now it turns out that there's good money in that. There's good money in doing vulnerability research and exploit development. ZDI and VCP and all these other programs, they'll buy this. $5K, $10K, more. Black market exploit sales, really good, right? These companies are using this to differentiate their products. They're third-party, layered-on security products. My third-party layered-on security product is better than your third-party layered-on security products because I buy more O-days from people that have discovered the vulnerabilities than you do. If I'm a consumer of that doesn't make me feel good. Like, you have 5,000 O-days in your database?
I know it's slavery because I own 4 of them.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's the most twisted, asinine logic. Like, I would rather they get fixed. I don't really care if you detect it. Could you work with a vendor? Please, God? Anyway, there's a lot of money in this. Ultimately, before the argument was, how should I disclose? What's this spectrum of full disclosure look like? The spectrum got a lot broader when it was, do I disclose or do I get paid for it? Let's rewind this a notch, right? Why do we do this? Besides because we like coming to places like Cleveland rocks, and Nashville, and coming to security conferences. That was a call at the Nauticon, by the way. Yay, Nauticon, woo! Why are we doing this? We're trying to make live systems more resilient to attack. Okay, we're trying to protect the information we care about, right? That's basically the point of computer security. Okay, by creating a secondary market for vulnerability information and disclosure, who does it serve? It sure doesn't serve the end user that we're trying to make things more secure for, does it?
The problem is it's like pharmaceuticals, right?
Right. Pharmaceuticals are completely straight and narrow, good old leave it to Beaver kind of thing.
So the goal of pharmaceuticals isn't to cure you, it's to improve your quality of living. So it's just like the security industry. The goal of the security industry isn't to fix your security problems, it's to improve your quality of living.
Better living through security is what you're saying. Excellent. Sounds like a DuPont ad. Jeff Gordon will be saying it soon. Boo, yay, all the people that don't like Jeff Gordon. Boo, yay. Yeah, my kids. Yeah, down with Jeff Gordon. And NASCAR fans? How many hacker NASCAR fans are there? Like 6. So 3 of them are in my house. Anyway, so where does that leave us? Ultimately, things are maybe a lot different than what we think. Okay. Again, you may not agree with everything. You may be able to shoot a lot of holes in it. But I would hope that maybe this has kind of opened your eyes to say, this doesn't make me feel good. Like, it doesn't make me feel any better. Like, I don't feel all that worse, but I don't feel better. We need to push vendors to actually make things more secure at the foundational level. Because I would rather have, when I run IT enterprises, a security budget of, 0. Right? I don't want to spend money on this, and I shouldn't have to. But as security professionals, we're not doing anything to make this better. We're not holding people's feet to the fire. We're not using these kind of cool architectures that were invented in the freaking 60s, and we're not using them, right? We're not trusted computing. How do you do that? MLS capability? People just don't know. Gonna go into a loop here. It'll be on the internet. Don't worry. You can laugh at Daddy all day long. Even when you're older, yeah. Your friends will laugh. I can't wait till he's like 15. Like, look how dumb my dad is. Which means happy. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to create a more formal body of knowledge for information security, and we need to hold each other accountable. You know, we need to call bullshit on each other every day. And I don't mean like an annoying trolling, you want to beat somebody's face in kind of way. I mean like, let's have honest-to-God academic discourse, right? Let's think about this. Yeah, thank you, Al. Yeah, I've got to pay you a lot of money for this. Anyway, some announcements. ShmooCon, past and present, we had 1,000 people show up, 1,000 people leave. That is the definition of victory in a HackerCon. Especially none of them leave in cuffs. Raised a lot of money, had a good talk on OLPC, had the ShmooCon Labs thing. Basically, people came in and helped set up the lab environment, or the conference environment ahead of time as a learning process. We had an open knock where people could see everything that was going on. We don't want to do training because it's very difficult to do training on a cost recovery basis like we do for ShmooCon. We don't try to run ShmooCon for profit. What we do instead is basically try to break even, but training's very expensive and hard to break even because there's a lot of effort that has to go into that. So our response to that was the labs, get people in, learn by doing, learn from experts, get mentored, that kind of thing. It was very successful. We'll be doing it again. There'll be an application process online shortly. You can wipe the likely off of this because it's actually real. The dates are February 15th through 17th. Coincidentally, the days after Black Hat Federal, we announced before they did. I just want to put that out there in the public domain. It was not a ploy to try to be the DEF CON of the East. It just kind of worked out that we're the days after them. It'll be the same place in the Warburton Park Marriott. Lots of upgrades there for those that have been there. New parking garage. Yay! They're redoing every room in the joint will be new. Every one. They're like redoing the entire hotel. It's mind-boggling how fast they can do. They can do like an entire tower of hotel rooms in like 3 weeks. There's just like a herd of people like go in on like the first of the month and then come out at the end of the month and there's a new hotel. There will be some interesting announcements. Oh, I guess the one thing I should say that I didn't say here, note when I go backwards or forwards, it scrolls the same way just to be disorienting. Sales will start November 1 at high noon, give or take. It'll be on the website, December 1 and January 1. Last year, there was kind of a land rush for sales, okay? We didn't intend for it to be like that, okay? You don't really gear up for growing by another 50% like every year. Yeah. Okay. I felt the most guilty of you, Uncle Al. We did have some issues, though, where people would come in, they'd try to buy a ticket for $75. By the time they hit submit, it was already taken by somebody else. So, oh, I'm sorry. Go back and try to buy another ticket, and they try to buy for $100. One guy tried to $75, and they sold out. Apparently, he types really slow, because then he tried $100, and they sold out, and or $150, excuse me, and then he had to go buy a $300 ticket. So apparently, he has to, really slowly type in his credit card every time. For those paying attention in the software world, that's kind of a race condition. And it didn't really look that good to us to be out here ranting about this kind of stuff and then having a race condition in our own code that's like 8 lines long. So we've hopefully fixed that, and we won't have that problem this year. But otherwise, the sales structure is basically the same. Heidi wants to say something else about ShmooCon. Oh, we are a nice community. Let's group hug. You can't come up here and hug me. Yeah, still is. I think, I don't have the tape measure, but you might be within 50 feet. So anyway, that's that. I encourage you not just to go to ShmooCon. I mean, like I said, we don't make money off of it, but go to your local security con. I feel like I'm Bob Barker saying, spay and neuter your pets because it's great, for the greater good. If I can take 2 minutes and say this, I've been in a couple of discussions in the last few months about doing things for the greater good. right? What does it really mean? And clearly, starving children on other continents and the poor in our own country and all these are clearly greater good issues that money and resources need to be dedicated toward. I mean, there's a lot of political views in there about how and whatever. That's fine. I think one of the best ways as a community that we can act toward the greater good is work to make the environment that all of the worldwide users expect to every day to use, make that more secure, right? I mean, it sounds kind of strange, but computer security can be a charitable act in and of itself. And I feel very strongly about this, and it's something that we try to uphold in ShmooCon, and I would encourage you as you go out and you go into other user communities, you go to your office, you go to other conferences, think about computer security in that mindset. You know, there's no shortage of money and fun to be had doing this. Okay? We can start to think a little bit more abstractly of our role as professionals and hobbyists in this. Let's start to think about computer security as a purpose for greater good for the citizens of the planet. It sounds hokey. I'm not really staffing. My throat's just getting hoarse, I swear. But just food for thought going forward. Anyway, it's 8:30 or something, and it's time to get your drink on. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.